Hey everyone, Sam here from TrulyDisturbing.com for this episode of Last Call Horror. Again, I'm with my co-host,
Johnathan Rosas.
Yeah, we're going to talk about everything that's going on today in the horror news. We have a new beer company that's going to be talked about, which is the Lost the Beer Company, right there. And we're going to be going over some new movies, and we have a new segment on supernatural mythologies that I think you guys are going to really like. So stick around, and this is Last Call Horror.
Today's beer is brought to you by Lost the Brew Company out in Covina, California. Sam, what are you drinking?
I'm just checking out the Los Guerreros brew that they just did with, surprisingly, the Guerrero family, the wrestlers, Chavo Guerrero, Eddie Guerrero that passed away, and everything like that. Yeah, it's really good Mexican-style lager, and they almost sold out of everything after Cinco de Mayo, so we really want to say a big thanks for Lost Brewery Company for providing this for us. And then what are you drinking, John?
Me, I'm drinking the Sally. The Sally I had earlier already, and it's like having a light beer, but still with the regular beer content. So, oh, that's good. It's just really good.
Yeah, the Los Guerreros one is real smooth. It almost has like I don't want to say a Budweiser feel to it, but it's very smooth, and it has a little, almost like a tang to it at the very end, but it's it's totally refreshing for the summer.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, this Sally goes down so smooth.
All right, so thanks a lot to Lost the Brewer Company. Appreciate it, and we're going to be drinking throughout the episode. Coming soon to theaters, we have The Dead Don't Die. This is a new zombie movie that's coming out by Jim Jarmusch. He's a very famous director in the Hollywood scene, and he's been around for years, and he has lots of good pull power with this movie. I mean, you got Bill Murray, right?
Yeah.
You got Tilda Swinton,
yeah,
who was in Constantine, and then you have Adam Driver, who was in the Star Wars movies, right?
Yes.
Yeah, he played Kylo Ren. It looks like a great comedy movie, and it looks like it's going to be really awesome. It's coming out June 14th in theaters, and to everybody, I mean, the trailer looks amazing. What do you think?
I thought it looked amazing. I'm not sure if it's going to be more on the, how would you say, a Zombieland-esque kind of a feel, but I mean, it has the zombie aspects in it, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. It looks like it's going to be a great movie. We'll see what happens, but yeah, The Dead Don't Die, June 14th. It looks like it's going to be a great time at the movies. Next up is what, John?
Nightmare Cinema.
Okay, Nightmare Cinema is another movie that's coming out June 21st, 2019. Who's starring in that?
That's going to be...
who's directing? That's right.
The directing is going to be, amongst one of them is going to be Joe Dante and Mick Garris.
Yeah, and if you remember, Joe Dante directed Gremlins and he directed The Burbs, so he's got a horror pedigree pretty good. And then also Mick Garris did The Stand for CBS back in '94, which is a Stephen King adaptation. So those are just a few of the directors that are going to be on that movie. It's an anthology flick, right?
Yeah. I mean, other anthology flicks like The Holidays, I think was one of them.
Or The Creep Show.
Yeah, Creep Show.
Trick or Treat.
Trick or Treat.
There's all Tales from the Crypt, obviously classic anthology film. This looks like it's going to have a lot of good masters of horror behind it. So that's coming out June 21st, and we hope you guys check that out as well. Next up in the summer is Child's Play, which is coming out on June 21st. And that stars Aubrey Plaza and Gabriel Bateman. A lot of people have an issue with this. What do you think about the new Child's Play?
I mean, it's like modernizing something that was already great, I guess. A
lot of people have an issue with it because of the fact that, one, Brad Dourif isn't going to be voicing Chucky, and that's a bummer. But Don Mancini was the guy who created the whole thing. Child's Play, the whole concept with Tom Holland. They wrote the script for Child's Play and everything like that. The only thing that happened was, Orion Pictures has the rights to the name Child's Play in the first movie.
Right.
All the other Chucky movies are owned by a different company, and Don Mancini owns the rights to those. That's why you have two separate universes. This Child's Play is supposed to go back to the original and take what the original didn't do. The original script supposedly had to do with AI and the doll that had no limits on learning and stuff like that, almost like a Terminator doll.
Oh yeah,
in a sense. But this is going to go back to that because Orion Pictures went to Don Mancini and asked if he wanted to be a part of it. He said no. He didn't want to do anything. Same thing with Brad Dourif. Same thing with Jennifer Tilly. None of them wanted to be in this new rendition of Child's Play. And so Orion Pictures had the rights, and they just went and started with it. But the good thing is they're going to get Mark Hamill to voice Chucky. What do you think
Which is
about
a fantastic voice actor. I mean, look, if you're going to piss off a bunch of nerds with with a bunch of continuity and like who their favorite voice actors are and everything like that, you can't get mad with Mark Hamill. I mean, he's done such great voice acting, such as Joker from the animated Batman animated series. So you just can't go wrong with Mark Hamill. So if anything, for me, it's going to be worth watching this movie because of him.
Yeah, it's going to be a really good experience. I really think that Aubrey Plaza is amazing, besides the fact that she's gorgeous.
Oh, yeah.
And then Gabriel Bateman is a great actor for being such a young age.
Oh, yeah.
And we were at the WonderCon panel for them, and they were really nice about everything. They were really excited about the movie. And the director, who's Lars Kleinberg, seems like he knows the issues very well and can dictate that through the film. And I'm looking forward to it. A lot of people are poo-pooing this movie, but I think it's going to be a good one for the summer.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Does it go against Toy Story that week?
Yeah, that's right. That's very true. So it's going to be
his
Toy
name
Story.
is Andy.
It's going to be Toy Story versus Chucky. It's going to be a crazy summer, pretty much. But I'm pretty sure who's going to win that. I mean, can't go wrong. Even us horror guys like Toy Story. But Child's Play comes out June 21st, so you should give it a check.
I see you have a new beer over there.
I see you have a beer.
How about we switch?
Okay.
All right. At the same time. All right. So let's see. This is a Sally beer from Alasta, and you got
The Los Guerreros.
let's see. Oh, yeah, that's a tasty treat.
Man, it just takes me back, man. Just takes me back.
Okay.
About these.
Oh, amazing. Cheers, bro.
And up next is our truly disturbing lore and history from Tara Quint on werewolves.
From mouth to print to film, stories of supernatural creatures have been spread throughout centuries. Some are pleasant, while others are a bit more sinister. The most savage of these is the werewolf. Notorious for hunting in the moonlight, these shape-shifting figures prowl in search of food, usually human, and stopping one might take more than just simply silver. Werewolf literally translates into man-wolf from Anglo-Saxon. In myth or fiction, it's a person who changes for periods of time into a wolf, typically around or during a full moon. This is called lycanthropy, a branch of therianthropy, or the mythological ability to metamorphose into wild beasts. Stories of werewolf-like species have circulated since 1 to 5 AD. Anglo-Saxon folklore describes a human ability to turn into a wolf, making lycanthropes over 2,000 years old. And that's something to howl at the moon over. So what exactly is the cause of the curse? Well, there are many methods as to one how can become a werewolf. Traditionally, the most common method is to be bitten. But that's also vampires and zombies. So how about some other lesser-known ways if you're interested in becoming one someday? Apparently being born under the wrong circumstances or the same day, in a forbidden marriage, Christmas Eve, under a new moon, which is all pretty much out of your control to begin with. But if you still want to be a werewolf, all you have to do is consume wolf flesh or drink rainwater from the paw print and soil. Or even working instead of worshipping on a religious holiday in Europe will do the trick. But some signs and symptoms of becoming a werewolf: having a fever or flu-like symptoms, eating raw meat, having a unibrow, or just extra hair in general. Back in the old days, they used to cut people open just to see if they had hair growing under their skin. Also, looking for a sign of a pentagram anywhere on your body can also be a sign that you'll be a victim or a werewolf someday. So what about prevention and protection? Well, all you need is love and silver. But why, and where does this come from? As gold represents the sun, silver represents the moon, and deities and magic are stronger than curses. But silver isn't always the best method, because like X-Men's Wolverine, our fine lichen friends have the ability to regenerate themselves. So, beheading, cremation, or dismemberment in general is sure to kill a werewolf. But holy water works as well. It's not just for vampires. And also love. Of all the cures you could think of, It's kind of surprising, but think about King Kong and Beauty and the Beast, and it makes sense. Then there's also talismans and amulets and Wolfsbane potion. But be careful how you use Wolfsbane, because you can also curse the person becoming a werewolf and not just cure them of it. When it comes to the spirit of the wolf, a form of possession in a sense, shamans believed that wearing wolf pelts provided certain traits. Think of it as your spider senses are tingling, but instead of a spider, you're a wolf. 900 AD Viking warriors known as berserkers put on pelts prior to battle, believing it made them more intense. Did it? Don't know, wasn't there, but I can imagine standing on a field and seeing a bunch of those guys coming at me wearing wolf skin. I'd probably run too. In modern medicine versus myth, there are some explanations. Clinical lycanthropy is a rare disorder where people believe they can become animals, mostly wolves, and is usually a symptom of schizophrenia. Hypertrichosis is an excessive hair growth condition. As far as rabies is concerned, as an explanation, if you need to go more in depth on that, just watch or read Stephen King's Cujo. The history of hysteria is parallel to that of witchcraft and witch hunts. Werewolf trials were combined with witch trials during the 15th century, which eventually phased out by the 18th century. The persecution of werewolves and the associated folklore is an integral but a minor part of the witch hunt phenomenon. The most famous case was that of German farmer Peter Strum, who was accused of werewolfery, witchcraft, and cannibalism. After torture and confession of these alleged crimes, he was executed on Halloween 1589. In medieval Europe, men who commit vicious acts of crime were often referred to as wolves, and fiction has been used to help us face the darker side of humanity since the beginning. From rapists to murderers, it's always more comfortable to blame the acts on a monster than it is to blame on a man. But always remember, even a man who is pure in heart and says his prayers by night may become a wolf when the wolfbane blooms and the autumn moon is bright. Thanks, guys.
And up next on our Truly Disturbing True Crime segment is Danny Danger on Richard Speck.
Thanks, guys. So, like many serial killers coming out of the baby boom era, Richard Speck had a really rocky childhood. He was born in December of 1941, and growing up as one of 8 children, he did have a very loving and close relationship with his father. Unfortunately, Speck's loving beginnings would be short-lived, as his father died when he was only 6 years old. His mother had gotten remarried 3 years after his father's death, moving him and his siblings to Dallas, Texas. His stepfather was the complete opposite of his loving and caring biological father, and he and his siblings would often suffer verbal and physical abuse at the hands of their often drunk stepfather. Eventually, Speck too would take up drinking at a very young age and would be arrested for the first time at the age of 13. He was a high school dropout by the age of 16, and in 1962 he became a husband and a father. Eventually, Speck too would take up drinking at a young age and would be arrested for the first time at the age of 13 for petty theft. He was also a high school dropout by the age of 16, and in 1962, he became a husband and a father for the first time. The marriage was very short-lived, and the following year he was in prison for theft and check fraud. He was released on parole in 1965, but only 4 weeks later would be arrested again for aggravated assault. He would be sentenced to 16 months in jail this time, but only would serve 6 months out of those 16. His wife would end up filing for divorce later that year. After he was released in jail this time around, he decided to get his infamous and probably one of the most recognizable tattoos in history. He would have the words "Born to Raise Hell" tattooed on his forearm. He would eventually return to his hometown and convinced his sister to allow him to stay with her, and during this time, his brother was able to help him secure a job as a carpenter. For a while, it seemed as if Speck maybe have turned a new leaf, but then April 2nd of 1966, he robbed and raped a 65-year-old woman in her home, and then shortly after, on April 13th, he beat a woman to death from the local bar. It is believed that these crimes were due to the anger he built up when he learned that his ex-wife had gotten remarried. After he was questioned by police for the murder, he fled to Chicago to stay with another sister. This sister was initially reluctant to allow him to stay, but she did allow him to stay for a while. His brother-in-law was able to secure him a job as a merchant seaman, and during his time on the ship, Indiana authorities wanted to interview him for the murders of 3 girls who had gone missing July of 1966, since it was recorded that the ship that he was working on was docked in that area at that time. They also wanted to investigate his whereabouts for another murder for other females whose ages ranged between the ages of 7 and 60 years old. This ship was also in the area during these crimes. Speck was able to make his escape each time, avoiding law enforcement. Then, on July 13th of 1966, Speck entered a home near Chicago's community hospital. The nurse who opened the door, named Corazon, opened the door to a gun-wielding Speck. Corazon would be the sole survivor of his next attack. The house is filled with 8 other nurses. He would bind the women's hands and feet with strips of bed sheets, and one by one he murdered 8 women by stabbing, strangulation, or both. One of the victims, who states she was flirting with him the entire time, was raped. Corazon was hiding under a bed this entire time, and Speck had lost track of how many nurses were in the home. Corazon's quick thinking would help her save her own life, and she stayed under that bed until the following morning, making sure that Speck was completely gone, and she crawled out the window and screamed for help. After this set of murders, Speck did attempt suicide and was rushed to the hospital for his wounds, where the nurse who was assisting him did recognize his tattoos from Corazon's descriptions on the news. The nurse called police, and Speck was arrested on July 17th. Speck was originally sentenced to death by electric chair. When the Supreme Court ruled capital punishment as unconstitutional in 1972, Speck's sentence was changed to 8 consecutive terms of 50 to 100 years. He was refused parole a number of times and died of a heart attack at the age of 49. He would only serve 19 of those years. Speck has never officially been charged with the murders which he was suspected for previously, and those cases still remain unsolved. In 1966, a journalist made a prison video public. It showed Speck taking drugs and engaging in sex with another inmate in the 80s while he was an inmate at the Statesville Correctional Institute in the 80s. Speck appears to have breasts in the video, apparently as a result of hormone treatment received while he was in prison, and is wearing women's clothing in the video. Speck also casually admits to killing the 8 nurses, describing the strangulations in some detail and bragging about the strength it required to kill someone in that manner. The video's release caused a major scandal in the Illinois Department of Corrections, and it's widely cited as justification for the reintroduction of the death penalty. So, Speck single-handedly brought back the death penalty. Back to you guys.
Alright, also another film coming up on June 26th is Annabelle Comes Home. It's the 3rd installment of the Annabelle films, originally coming from the Conjuring universe. This film is being directed by Gary Doberman, also starring McKenna Grace and Madison Iseman. This is going to be the 3rd film in the Annabelle films. It looks great. I believe...
What's that? Do you believe what, my friend? What do you believe? No. Annabelle Comes Home is obviously going to be an addition to the Conjuring universe, and it explains how Ed and Lorraine Warren are gone on assignment for something, and then her daughter is left basically to deal with basically a nosy friend that comes in and ruins the whole damn thing, touches Annabelle, messes up the whole damn issue, and Annabelle gets released. Basically, that's what the premise of Annabelle Comes Home is about. And I mean, you got McKenna Grace, who was in Captain Marvel last, and she was also in Amityville Awakening a while back.
Which is a great, like kind of coming home, basically. Right?
Amityville and Conjuring universe go hand in hand,
Exactly.
you could say, because Conjuring was used in, Amityville was used in Conjuring too.
Also, Ed and Lorraine Warren, the actual Ed and Lorraine Warren, were the ones who were the demonologists on site for the
Right, and going into that, we're going to start talking about a little bit more about the Conjuring universe, building up to Annabelle Comes Home, because it's the last movie in the Conjuring franchise that ties in with everything. And what are your expectations for this film as it ties into the Conjuring universe?
Well, my expectations for this film is James Wan isn't the one who's directing it.
No, it's being directed by Gary Doberman, right?
Obviously, yes. So, so James Doberman, he needs to step his game. You know what I'm saying?
The beer's good too.
It is, right?
Okay, well,
It's
anyway,
good beer.
Gary Doberman.
Gary Doberman, he really needs to step his game.
Okay.
He needs to make this film as great as all.
Well, come on now, let's be 100% honest. The first Annabelle movie was poop. I didn't enjoy it. I didn't think the first Annabelle movie was that great. I thought it was lacking on a few things. There was a few certain scares that were great, but it focused a little bit too heavily on the jump scares, which I'm not a big fan of. I like the building tension,
Okay.
you know, where you don't know what's around.
That's what I'm saying. He needs to live up to things.
Right. James Wan, I mean, Conjuring first film was rated R just for the scare factors alone. There's no nudity.
Right.
There's no profanity to the degree of needing an R rating. I mean, the scares alone made the MPAA say that this movie's so scary it needs to be rated R. And then the chronological timeline for the Conjuring universe is all over the place.
Right. Yes, it is.
And Annabelle Comes Home can fall probably in the middle somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, you would think about it if you actually really think about it when they're away on
Assignment or
the
whatever.
second Conjuring, when they're in
In
London,
London, yeah, that's right.
right? That's when they were having the issues with the daughter at home.
Annabelle Comes Home, that's where
Yeah,
the factors in.
and so
Okay.
they bring the doll home. Then they have to go on assignment to London,
Mhm.
and then
The Enfield haunting, yeah.
yeah, exactly. And so when the daughter was home, she had an incident when she went in there. Didn't she, I believe?
Yeah.
The second Conjuring.
Yeah,
film?
they warned her not to go in there.
And she went in there. So she's like, so she had her moment. She was like, oh shit, she gets out. Now it's going to continue on with, hopefully during that time. I mean, that would make sense.
Are you happy in the whole run with the Conjuring universe so
Yeah,
far?
I actually am. Like, it's been a long time since a scary film has come out that really gets you going.
With a legitimate franchise.
Yeah,
anyway.
exactly.
I mean, you have franchises such as Nightmare on Elm Street, which isn't doing anything right now anymore. Robert Englund's not doing it anymore, and you've got Halloween, which is a great franchise, but they just redid the whole thing for Halloween with Jamie Lee Curtis
Yeah.
for the last film, and then Friday the 13th. That's in limbo. LeBron James is supposedly going to be producing a new one, but I don't know what's going on with that. So there's no real horror franchises that are continuing on in a universe sense. So The Conjuring is the only thing that's really happening right now in that vein.
I'll give you The Conjuring and Insidious films.
Oh, well, but think about it. Conjuring and Insidious are both Blumhouse pictures.
Oh, yeah.
And they're both produced or have some sort of involvement with James Wan.
That's right. Yeah.
So, I mean, James Wan has been making horror movies for years and years and years. And he ventured off, obviously. He did Aquaman, and he's done the Fast and the Furious movies and stuff like that. But ultimately, horror is where
Ultimately, that's where he needs to stay. I understand sometimes you need to take a step back and do other projects just to get your mind refreshed. But when you're doing that, like, things started ruining your head. In his case, I think a lot of dark shit just starts ruining his head.
I mean,
And
the
he's
guy-
like, I got to put this shit down.
as a student in film, the dude came up with Saw. I mean,
God.
it's just like, goddamn. So we're really looking forward to what the Conjuring universe has to play. I mean, The Nun was sort of fell flat on me personally.
It fell very flat on me.
Well, because of the fact, the religious connotations behind it are immense. But the fact of the matter is that if you didn't have a faith-based fear of religion and stuff like that,
Right.
I think The Conjuring wouldn't be as impactful, or especially The Nun wouldn't be as
Right.
impactful.
Yeah.
If you didn't care if you were atheist, you didn't believe, then there's nothing to really be afraid
Yeah,
of.
it's not going to really get to you. I really did how they tied the movie in with modern day Conjuring and
The first.
Yeah, which blew my mind. I was like, oh, because you forgot about that. Those little tidbits that James Wan does, dude.
Yeah, it puts in.
And it brings it right back. You're like, oh, crap, yeah, you're right. That's amazing, I'm not going to spoil it. You just got to watch it. But, yeah, also, too, that I think people were going into this film anticipating a whole Ed Warren aspect. Because of the fact, Ed and Lorraine, but the fact that Ed had shown in previous films that he was being haunted by the devil. So I figured, personally myself and other people that I talked to, we thought that this was going to be the Nun versus like Ed and Lorraine. So the fact that they just did the origins of the Nun was kind of like no.
I see. So you wanted to see more of Ed handling that aspect.
I mean, there was like his own demons in it.
True. So the Conjuring universe is very immense and obviously expansive. There's tons of great moments during those movies. From everything from the opening of Conjuring 1 with the whole Annabelle discussion to even the opening of Conjuring 2 where they talk about Amityville. The openings for these movies are great, and I mean even Annabelle, La Llorona, and also The Nun had great opening scenes, amazing opening scenes. But sometimes the movies fell flat, so I'm just worried that the films in general have a high point, and then they peter out. So I'm looking forward to it. I don't get my money, but I don't know if it's going to be something that I'm going to actually purchase later on.
Definitely needs to be they're going to get our money because we need to complete the collection.
For sure.
I mean,
yeah.
if you're a collector like us, like, you got to complete the collection. It's going to get our money. It's just going to. But just please make it.
Yeah, we're really hoping for
just
that.
please.
So we'll see what's going on with the Conjuring universe. There's probably going to be another Conjuring movie 2. There's going to be another Conjuring 3 that I know for sure is going to happen, but I don't know any of that info right now. But when that one comes out, we'll bring it first to you, okay? Thanks so much for checking us out. This is Last Call Horror.